All right, now we are recording. So, welcome and thank you for our second podcast, um, Educating During a Pandemic. Today, our panelists consist of administrators, site leadership, and we are going to be talking with some folks about leading during the pandemic. My name is Gabrielle Thurmond. I am an administrator and a coach. Um, and I'm happy to be here. I'm co-facilitating with my partner in crime, Gina. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi there, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Gina Hill, and welcome to Mindful Administrators Podcast. And I am an administrator in Oakland, California, or Huchin, as the original people of this land know it, the Ohlone folks, at Gina Maria Chill. If you want to chi down and do some mindfulness and practice some yoga, we do that as well. And I'll go ahead and pass to Dwayne if you want to go ahead and give yourself a shout out and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gina. My name is Dwayne Bartholomew. I'm a principal in Oakland. And yeah, I don't have a lot of social medias. I have a child. I'm just trying my best, everybody. I'll pass it on to Alessandra.
Thanks so much, Dwayne. My name is Alessandra Cabrera. I'm an assistant principal in Oakland. Same here, Dwayne. I was like, I have a kindergartner, and I'm like, what side hustle? I can't even get up sometimes and manage her Zoom and our Zoom, everybody's Zoom. So thank you for having me. And I'll pass it to Mimi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mina Hutchins, and I am a special ed administrator in Southern Cal, and just happy to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you,
I
Mina.
also have a 5-year-old at home.
Thank you, Mina. We're going to pass.
So pray for me.
Thank you, Mina. We'll pass it on to Manuel.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manuel Nava. I'm a principal in Los Angeles. As far as a side hustle, I'm with the rest of you guys. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so there's no hustle around here. And just like Alessandra said, I just want to sleep in. That's gonna be my side hustle right there. Figuring out a way to get parents more sleep, and definitely dealing with Zoom. Being a site administrator, my wife is a full-time psychologist in LA, also school psychologist. So, I mean, between trying to run a school, her managing her caseloads, and having our 4-year-old on Zoom, it's just been, it's been a challenge. So, yeah, the only side hustle here is going to be figuring out how to get parents more sleep.
Hashtag sleep in. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to be with us. So let's just jump right in. And we'll just give you the questions and you can jump in as you see fit. The first one is, what is one of the biggest challenges you've experienced leading a school during distance learning? And then also, what is one of the, what is working? What's one thing that is working well during distance learning? So whoever wants to jump in, just go ahead and take that on.
I'll jump in first, Dwayne here. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges I have seen so far is the overall isolation of everyone, and how it shows up in different ways, whether it's, myself, staff, students, families. People are all in their own, like, a lot, in their own stuff a lot. And everybody's just trying to do the best they can. But, in most cases, people feel alone. People feel like, they're pushing this rock up the hill. And even when you do have certain successes, it just doesn't always feel as good as it used to feel, because you can't really see them. And you're going into Zoom classes and, you're seeing people holding up, a traditional model, and it's because, hey, this is all I know. And it's not always, the greatest success. And you see students struggling just to even log into the Zoom class or turn on the camera and participate. So I just think that a lot of people just feel alone. Even when people try to help, it doesn't always feel like it's help. Sometimes it feels like it's bothering or badgering. I think one of the biggest pushes we've had all year is really just try to address isolation for everyone that's involved in the school community, and making sure that we still stay connected. And I think, overall, one of the, the successes has been that, we've had to focus on it because it's been something that is obviously an area of need. So, I feel like I have stronger relationships with many of the people I work with, many of the families I work with, many of the students I work with today, the ones that I can get a hold of, because, we're all we got. So, sometimes out of the darkness becomes the light. So that's kind of my biggest, challenge, and then the positive side of that, silver lining.
Awesome, Dwayne. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
I think what I would say is one of the biggest challenges. I mean, I definitely agree with Dwayne. Trying to figure out how to let our staff know that they're not alone in this. You know what I mean? That we're with them. We have their back. But yet at the same time, for myself, my school is in South Central LA. Really high poverty, really high crime. And I think the biggest challenge for me is trying to balance the humanity of all this, but at the same time, maintaining the expectations that I have of my staff, because I already know that when we do come back, my students most of the time are at least a semester or two behind their colleagues in the rest of our district. And so making sure that, we understand the frustration, we understand that, everybody's feeling alone, everybody's overwhelmed, everyone's working hard, but at the same time, keeping those same expectations to make sure that our babies are receiving the instruction that they're entitled to and that they deserve. And so one of the highlights, though, is going into some of the classrooms via Zoom, which is definitely a lot different than being in the site itself, but seeing like some of our teachers just go above and beyond, and seeing some of our kids, just participating and engaging, and number one, navigating through Zoom, which I think they figured out way before we did. You know what I mean? Like they're totally all over the chat, all over using all of these different apps and everything, when we're still trying to figure out how to log into them. So definitely just that the biggest challenge for me is how do we just balance both, you know what I mean, without making our teachers feel this huge pressure, that there's nothing else that they can do, but at the same time, just maintaining the expectations that we have for the learning of our children.
I would say for me that there's like a divide in terms of the technology usage. I've got those ones that are doing really well, right? Like you said, Manuel. And so, which was actually displayed in like an exhibition we did where students were showcasing their growth, what they learned. But I felt like, again, it was to a certain population that could do it. And I think it just leads back to the piece where Dwayne was saying about the isolation or not knowing how to get involved or where to get involved. And so, but to me, it stems from like their technology usage. And so part of it is, even though we're on Zoom, we'd had to kind of concede on like coming to site once a week just to provide that in-person support to get them started. So for me, that was kind of like a highlight because one, I got to interact, obviously safely, socially distanced, but just trying to push some sort of engagement. I think for me, it's the engagement piece that I can't get a majority of the students on. So it's still something that we're working through. But I'm looking, I'm still hopeful, just like trying different pieces. And hopefully that's going to make that difference for that student to get engaged, regardless of like what you're saying too, Manuel, is that they are behind, but something that's going to move them academically or feel involved in this community right now.
I'll jump in here. So, you know, I concur with everything that everyone has said already, but I really wanted to take us back to like that when we first closed schools, and information was like coming from the county, from the region, from your district, and the plan was changing like minute by minute, you know. And I think one of the hardest things for me is being that middle person, and principals coming to me wanting answers, and they hadn't been funneled to me yet. So just being able to say, this is the plan until it's not the plan, and this is new for all of us. We're going to be tweaking and perfecting the plan as we go along or move through the pandemic. But I think one of the good things that has come out of it is it really has forced us to jump into 21st century with technology. I mean, me being administrator over 50, I'm like, man, I hadn't even held a Zoom meeting yet. And GChat was a part of what we had available, but we weren't using it. You know, we were doing things old school, and the rest of the world is way ahead of us, meaning way ahead of K-12 public education. So I think that's a blessing in it. And I think a lot of our teachers have risen to the occasion and really increase their technology skills. And some of them are really having a lot of fun doing it, you know, especially the younger teachers. But the older teachers are like, what the heck is going on? A Zoom, what? But one of our other challenges is like, we didn't know what learning would look like in the Zoom classroom, right? So how could we possibly give feedback or analyze it? So we had to really take a step back and try to figure out what that looked like so that we can begin to coach and guide folks through that. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that transition into this whole distance learning thing, and what's going to happen with this and what's going to happen with that, and then being, I don't know. Yeah, that's how I felt as an administrator. I don't know, because we hadn't done this before, and it was an uncomfortable place to be. But what's kind of resonating with me is like the way in which folks have sort of developed their compassion and empathy muscles as a result of this for for each other, teacher to administrator, administrator to teacher, teacher to teacher, even some student to student. Sometimes they can be brutal as teenagers, but yeah, even student to student. So my next question is, and I don't know, Gabrielle, before we move on, did you want to comment at all?
Well, just everything you said has resonated with me. I do agree that there have been some significant challenges, especially the not knowing piece. But I also recognize one of the beautiful things that we've experienced is the willingness of the teachers to really explore and utilize technology, because I know previously, you know, technology consisted of go to this website and play games. And now the technology is at a totally different level, right? So pushing teachers, I mean, that's what this pandemic has done, pushing teachers and families to move into the 21st century in regards to technology. So, and that's great to see, especially for communities that I know I work in. So, right, go ahead, Gina.
So the next question is, so as a school leader, it's sort of esoteric, I guess, but what have you let go of? What have you let go of? Some think time. 7 seconds of think time is extremely important, in particularly on Zoom.
Things that we've let go of. I can speak for myself, but I think I've let go of waiting for the district to give me answers and making decisions that I know are going to be best for my community and for my students. You know, it's kind of like Mimi shared earlier, right? Waiting for those answers, and we're all looking up at someone to tell us what to do, but unfortunately, we can't keep looking up at someone because they don't know what to do because someone hasn't told them. So just making decisions that I feel are best for my community and for my teachers, while at the same time, just doing enough not to get fired, right? Or not to get in trouble, but making sure that whatever I do, if it's going to homes and helping parents with technology because they've been to the school site 5 or 6 times and I can just see the frustration on their face. And even though we're being told not to, so it's like putting on that extra PPE and just driving out there just so that I make sure that they connect because the biggest piece right now is the engagement. You go into some classrooms, you got some teachers that got 24 out of 24 students. You go into other classrooms, you got teachers that only have 12 out of 24 or one sometimes. And so just trying to figure out ways to work the system where I can get to those kids and make sure that they're logging in, without breaking any district policy or anything like that, just bending it enough so that it benefits my students, my kids.
Absolutely, having to be a little bit more creative and I guess aggressive around getting out into the community and trying to figure out how do I bridge the technology divide? And I feel like that's a huge challenge in the community where I serve. And and that divide is not having access. The access isn't in the community yet. I have access, but I'm kind of resistant because I'd rather use my phone, but things aren't, so having sort of the team to come together. I think all of us on our site have sort of let go of, I guess, sort of the walls maybe that we might have been putting up where, we wouldn't go that extra mile. Like, well, that's not my job or that's not my responsibility. And, and I'm telling on us a little bit, but we've all had to sort of think differently. And which is what I connect with around the compassion and empathy and developing that muscle where I'm seeing folks sort of unify a little bit more and get out into the communities in a way that we weren't doing before. And for me, I'm like, it's not like this wasn't necessary before, but it took this adversity to really push us beyond our limits. So other folks, what you thinking? What's on your mind, Dwayne? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I mean, all right. So I just piggyback on what Manuel just said, because 100%, we got to do what we got to do, and I'm sure that every administrator on this call is a very type A type of person. I would assume to get to this, level, like you got to be a little bit more, a little bit much. And one thing I've always prided myself on was like, okay, so whatever the district throws at me, I can handle it. I'm gonna knock it out of the park. I'm gonna get it all done. And one thing I've let go, not even a question, is anything having to do with testing right now. Now, don't tell my spirits. And once again, remember for my name for this podcast, and my name is Robert Johnson. That is my name, and I work in Saskatchewan. And 100% though, testing, I'm trying to get students to get educated. I'm trying to get students engaged in classes. And sometimes that takes every ounce of their energy and their focus just to get into that room so that I can make sure that a teacher has access to educate my kids, right? And for me, the bridge too far is when I'm getting inundated with emails about, well, remember, SBAC testing is still open in March. And I swear to God, if I hit one more email about some testing, people don't care about no testing. Like, that's a you issue. And it's just like, I care about making sure that my families are safe, doing mental health checks. I am not gonna force a family or a student to have to adhere to some district testing mandate for their own benefit in a situation where, like, hey, we're already talking about learning loss and all of the impacts of being in distance learning. And you want me to give a dang test to see how much they lost when they're already frustrated? They're already, they already know all of these hardships and these things that they're gonna have to overcome because of this situation. And now you want me to ask them to go a bridge too far and take an hour-long test? Get out of here. Testing, let go, let it go, let it go.
Thank you, Dwayne. It's hilarious. Oh,
So I don't know if you guys will judge me. Hopefully not. I haven't done any formal
this is
observations.
a no
of teachers.
judgment zone.
Good. Well, I feel like the district judges me, so I feel like we're on this district tip. I haven't done any formal observations of teachers. I'm not filling out the 10-page form on how to be teaching during distance learning. I kind of wrote it in an email and waiting for the call back to say, I said, I'm not going to put the time in. I'm sorry. I really am not. I said, I'm trying to help them engage students. I'm trying to help them with their needs right now in distance learning. I'm not trying to go through and make check boxes. And it's hard. I mean, a lot of those things are good practices, right? And sometimes we've had to tweak them, but I was like, this is not the time. I said, I give feedback though. It's not that I don't, right? I give feedback about what went well. Like, we're looking at positives, not like what is kind of, I felt like the structure is a little bit deficit that teachers aren't hitting these things. And so I'm waiting for the email from the higher ups to say like, what do you mean you're not doing them? So I've let that go. So I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, let's face it, this is not business as usual. Like, this is not business as usual. And to ask for testing and, fill out this long ass observation and evaluation form. Are you serious? Like, we don't even know what we're looking at. Like, we've never done this before. There needs to be a whole new evaluation observation tool specifically for this. Who's going to make it? Don't you all jump at once.
I'll say this. One thing I've given up, I gave up perfection a long time ago, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, let me do the bare minimum to get through. And it's not a comfortable space for me to be in. However, I need to make sure that my staff can do what they can do, that I'm in compliance, and that I can maintain, my own well-being without being stressed out about all the deadlines. How come parents haven't returned calls? What's going on with the staff member? And so what I find myself doing oftentimes when I meet my staff is like, I'm trying to give encouragement, and I also find myself reminding my staff who are frustrated about our the humanity of our families, right? So when children don't come on Zoom, my question is, well, why aren't they coming on? Do you know why? And what I'm finding oftentimes is, either the families, the adults who are doing the supervision may not have the capacity because grandma has all the kids in the family at the house on 2 hotspots, or, there's a parent who is managing multiple children and a part-time job and doing her or his best, and the kid is just not connecting with the Zoom. And there are just a number of, or who knows, folks are dealing with homelessness, right? They might be on the verge of eviction. And so I have to remind our teachers sometimes, that be kind and give these families some grace, because if the child is not showing up on Zoom, but they respond to every text, they return a phone call, or they answer every phone call, then that means that family is still interested and engaged. So don't write them off. So, and honestly, that takes a lot of energy out of me, because I find myself having those same exact conversations every single week. So you know, sometimes I'm just like, what do I need to do to get by?
I think just to piggyback on Dwayne, yeah, the testing, I'm definitely kind of like, yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, right, when we have to do it. But I think one of the things also that I've definitely given up on right now is homework. Not that I was ever a big fan of it, but, you know, I tell my teachers, you know, spend as much synchronous time as you possibly can with these babies and minimize the amount of asynchronous. And when I have teachers, you know, they're all stressed out, oh, you know, I'm not getting the assignments back. But did they show up to class today? Did they participate in class today? Okay, then let's base it on that, you know, because you're not going to get 100% of those assignments completed, just like Gabrielle said, you know, for us, all the families that want, and I'm sure just like you guys, all the families that wanted a hotspot, we got them hotspots, right? But then they gave us hotspots with a carrier whose service is horrible in our neighborhood. So it's like, you know, you have to have like a hotspot for each child. And then I had to fight with the district because they were like, oh, well, we're only giving one hotspot per family. I'm like, yeah, but this family's got like 6 kids there. I need at least 3 hotspots, you know? And so it was just like a constant back and forth with them. But definitely I would say just let go of having kids like they didn't turn in the assignment, whatever. They showed up for class, they participated in class, they lit the chat on fire, then that's it. You know, base whatever you're gonna give them for that day on that. Or you have parent that, you know, the child's not connecting, but the child is completing the asynchronous assignment at night. Well, that means that the parents aren't there to supervise them during the day, but they're completing the assignments at night. And how do the assignments look? Give the kids some feedback. Let the parents know that, you know, if that's the way they can participate right now, then we're going to take that, and that's what we're going to get.
I want to say that that's definitely the highlight. I think that teachers have kind of let go of that traditional kind of grading of like what does that engagement look like, right? And so I think that one, yes, we're being really creative about participation and connecting and possibly giving assignments that have to do with them, right? Or what's happening in the house. Like instead of like, oh, write this 5-page essay on something, right? Like what is going on for you? And a couple of things are just like, you know, how has this pandemic affected you? Write about that, or write about something that gives you life every day. Get on, you know? So like really being mindful of just where students are and making sure that they can engage instead of making it like, here's your asynchronous or, you know, work that has to be done in order for you to get credits. And I think that's kind of important because students still need to graduate. I mean, we're in high school, and am I going to hold them back because they didn't do asynchronous work? I mean, I think it's a struggle, but I think teachers have been really compassionate and in working with students and making sure that they can get credits in order to graduate.
Thank you, Alessandra, for sharing that. I'm looking at some, mindful of the time, but I also want to kind of dig a little bit deeper in this area in terms of like student engagement, family engagement. So what are some strategies or successes that you've experienced with family and student engagement? And what strategies do you implement yourself? And what would you offer others who might be watching this discussion? Bueller.
I mean, as far as student engagement, I really, in my experience, has been that the strongest person or the person that has the most control over that is the teacher. I mean, like I said earlier, right? I have some teachers who had perfect attendance every day. I mean, all their kids are logged in. They can log off Zoom, turn it off, and all their kids come back. And then I have other teachers who, you know, they'll log off and only half of the class will come back, you know? So definitely I think that the teacher is the driving force behind the engagement. As far as me as administrator, I mean, I can tell you guys, I have about 894 kids enrolled in my school right now. Usually we're about 950, 980, and we're in elementary school, K-5. And at the beginning of the year, you know, when all this started, I used to average like 200-300 parents for my coffee with the principals and all that. But I think as the information got old and I really didn't have any answers for them, I mean, that's gone down to like maybe 50 parents, 40 parents, you know? And I mean, I've tried everything. I've tried raffling off bikes. I've tried doing this, but you know, I mean, they're not in that mindset right now, you know? So definitely communication for us has been the Class Dojo, the school website, Instagram, Facebook, you know, not that I'm a big social media person, because I mean, if anything, I'll look at TikTok to get a laugh, you know? I mean, that's it, but I don't post anything. Um, but definitely I think our teachers, it all goes to our teachers and what they're doing, you know, planning longer hours, really using technology to engage our students, and they're the ones that are pulling the kids in. I mean, I wish I could take credit for it and say, oh yeah, it was me. This is no, it's completely the teachers.
And yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, and you really see this year, I see the amount of dividends in the work of relationship building with teachers that was happening last year. You know, you take for granted sometimes, you know, in the traditional format, when you're walking around at lunch and you see, you know, which rooms are open and which kids are inside the teachers' rooms, you know, doing the most random things. You know, I worked in Emeryville for a little bit, and we had one teacher who I do not know why. He was a you know, millennial Latinx you know, young man, and he played Korean soap operas in his room at lunch. In Korean soap operas. School's predominantly Latino and Black, and I swear, I have never seen more of a packed room in my life, every single lunch, than Korean soap operas at lunch. I do not know, but it didn't matter what was on. It just proved it didn't matter what was on or what was going on in that room. That teacher had built a bond with his students. And even if it was, you know, a Korean soap opera on, they just wanted to be in that room, in that comfortable environment where they felt safe with their own time. And I think it spoke a lot to that culture that teacher individually built. Now, I have 3-4 new teachers this year, and you can see it's like starting in this environment, you know, it's very difficult still building that relationship online and getting that engagement of students that, I mean, I don't know who you are, you know, I've never seen you before. But my teachers that were returning actually have received a lot more dividends in the engagement factor because they've had those relationships. And it's like, hey, you know me. Like, I need you to get this done. I can work with you at this time. Let's make it happen. Just the power of relationships with, you know, teachings with teachers and admin staff and our attendance specialists and the people you see that are putting in the work and have, you know, made face-to-face connections with folks. Like, really, it's paying off dividends now. You can see the students that didn't have that connection with an adult on campus because those are the kids that we're trying to do house visits for, and we're running around the city trying to find them. But yeah, the relationships pay off big time when things get really tough like this.
Go
I
ahead.
definitely, oh, sorry. I was going to say, I just wanted to shout out kind of like the support staff, you know. We actually have a set of support staff, and then we have after school staff. So we kind of do that wraparound. If one of the teachers couldn't get a kid, then it's another support staff, then it's a after school staff. So I feel like in terms of engagement and strategy, we do 3 people rounds, and then of course if that third person couldn't get them, then I come in so that so the family knows, like, yes, we're here for you regardless of, you know, is it academic, is it resources, is it anything. We want you to feel like you're part of this community.
I'll just be real quick because I want to be mindful of time. We have a
And then
small,
from a special ed perspective, you know,
go ahead, Mina,
I'm sorry.
start over, please, because we couldn't hear you.
Okay. So I was speaking from a special ed perspective on connecting with parents for IEP meetings. I mean, of course, we are open to doing them by phone, by Zoom, GChat, however the parent can show up. One of the challenges has been getting them the IEP signature page. You know, getting a parent a DocuSign document that for the first time, and you're like hounding them to fill this out. You know, sending text messages, emails, and they're like, no, I don't want. I'm not interested in figuring out how DocuSign works. I don't have time. I got 3-4 kids. Maybe they have multiple kids with IEPs. But I do want to shout out we call them BOMs in our organization, our business operations folks that are at the site that will actually print the document and arrange for the parent to come by the school and sign. So that has helped. Some of our teachers are using Google Translate to send text messages to kind of get over that language barrier for some of our teachers that don't speak Spanish, that to help us get either parents connected to the IEP meeting or get those signatures pages back. But I delayed in answering because honestly, I don't feel really successful in connecting with parents right now. I feel really far removed, and I can't even imagine the kind of stress and that they're under with so many parents having lost their jobs, trying to manage Zoom, and they're like, look, I didn't sign up to be a teacher. I could barely help with homework, right? And now I got 3 kids, 3 different schools, maybe 2 of them have IEPs. How can I possibly do it and fit? You know, they're getting Zoom text messages for OT, for PT, for speech, for the general ed teacher, for the special ed teacher. If it were me, I would just, if I had a child with those services or multiple children with those services, I think I would probably blow a fuse. But I'm thinking that that is an opening to maybe creating an app for that, where parents can manage their day when their children have multiple service providers. My heart goes out, and so I just have to allow them some grace. You know?
I want to echo what you're saying too, because you just think about that. The most at-risk population on a school site campus is students with special needs, and the services are there to support them. And now in this current context, they are a larger burden than they are a support. Like just the shame. So those kids that need it the most are getting hurt the most because the tech gap, all these other obstacles. But the kids that need it the most are getting hurt the most because the thing that should be there to help them is now their biggest albatross, that they have to carry.
Yes. And some of the kids have maybe 600 minutes or something that they're supposed to have specialized academic instruction. And you're like, really? This kid that has ADHD is going to sit in front of the computer for 6 hours a day and then try to meet with for speech and OT in between that? Yeah, not going to happen. And you want that parent to navigate those meetings as well. So it's, SPED folks got to kiss compliance stuff goodbye for the moment and just have some compassion and try to engage the kids as you all have been saying over and over. Just keep them connected in any way possible.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing so richly. My mind is going a mile a minute as I think about, what do we learn from this? And how are we different? How are we going to be different if and when things return to normal? Like, will we create a new normal? Will we hopefully learn from this and do things better? And so we'll close out the last question and just keeping it brief, sharing a tidbit of wisdom or words of encouragement to yourself, to each other, to others. What would your tidbit of wisdom or words of encouragement be before we sign off?
I have this thing I do with my kids and my staff. Usually I do it every afternoon at the end of the day, right? And it's mostly for my kids, but then my teacher started calling me out on it. And I always tell my kids, at the end of the day, if no one's told you that they love you, remember the mission of love you. And so my teachers were like, well, what about us? We want some love too. So, I started sharing that with them also. But I think the biggest tip that I'd have for all of us is that, just breathe. We will get through this. Right now, like I told my teachers, the main thing is stay safe, because I can't have you guys going down, because if you go down, I don't have anybody else, and I don't want anyone else to take your place, because these babies need you, because they're used to you, they know you, and I don't want to put someone, completely new in front of them that they don't know. So, I would just say that, we've made it this far. At this point, I hear there's a vaccine, right? And we're next in line, supposedly. But I don't know if we're going to be running to get it, right? That's a whole nother conversation. We have to wait to see if, there's a third toe or a third something that comes out from it. But I think right now I would just say, just keep it pushing, and we'll get through this. And just, like Dwayne and I shared earlier, just, you got to bend it a little bit, right? And you just got to, right now, we just got to make sure that we're there for our students and that we're there for our teachers. And that's the main thing right now. But we'll get through this, just like we get through everything else in education.
I'll add obstacles that you that come up in your life are just an opportunity for you to succeed even further than you thought you could. And in times like these, this too shall pass. I 100% agree. But in times like these are learning experiences, and as all of us are educated people who see the power in education to change folks' life for the better. This is a terrible situation that will never be forgotten, but we can learn new skills, and it can make us better administrators, better teachers, just overall better community members, if we take advantage of it in that light. It's a lot of reasons just to have this, just take your legs out from under you and not get up. But, just the amount of tech that I've learned in the last few months, I'm going to utilize that for the rest of my career. And that's going to make me better. Seeing teachers, pivot on a dime to be able to change up the way they normally give their curriculum to something that's way more interactive, like that will make them better teachers in the long haul. Just the support services staff, just the idea of mental health checks, and maybe we just incorporate that every day, even in perpetuity. The difficulty of this situation is going to make us better. And if we choose to look at this, in the future as an opportunity for us to grow and challenge ourselves, and gain new skills that we could utilize for the rest of our careers for the benefit of our school community.
Absolutely, I agree with Dwayne. With challenge, it brings like great opportunity for innovation, and for us to, like right now, like to really stay curious about our kids, and how they learn, and how we're going to prepare them for tomorrow. We don't know, right? But this is like what I believe is a wonderful time to create these think tanks to be like educational disruptors. Like we can't go back to the norm. And it wasn't necessarily working before. So how can we redesign, reshape, rethink about how we're going to go about this business of education, right? And it has to include the empathy, the compassion, and take it. These kids our kids are going to come back they're going to be different too. And are we going to be ready to embrace them and accept them for where they're at, right? And they're not the same kids they were when they left, when schools closed. But yeah, so I'd just say stay curious about ourselves as well as our students, so that we continue to grow and evolve as the world is changing, and reinvent education, right? And how we do business. Amen, amen.
And I hope this reaction game in the is really going to get picked up on the podcast. For all of those listening at home, tons of explosions and thumbs ups and claps. The crowd goes wild. I'm sorry, Alessandra, you're going to say something?
No, I mean, for me, I think, for ourselves and for all the work we're doing, I mean, just continue to practice self-care, self-compassion. I mean, and have teachers and all our staff completely do it. I think, it's what we need, and, just figuring out what's going to ground you, in terms of the work that's ahead. Because Mina says it wasn't working, but maybe this is the time for that change. So
I think someone shared it earlier, but I definitely think, especially, I think it was Dwayne, the gains that we've made in technology, with the usage of it and just putting our kids out there. And I mean, watching them navigate, I'm telling you guys, watching the kids, like I saw a kid once fix a Zoom session for a teacher. And it was just like in awe. I'm like, oh, I can let these kids in, make me the co-host, and I'll show you how to share the screen and do this is right. And I'm just sitting there. Do I have the right person teaching this class? No, I'm kidding. Just, they're more comfortable with it. And I tell my teachers all the time, don't be afraid. I mean, the computer's not going to blow up. I mean, we can replace it if something happens. I mean, just, push it to the limit. But definitely, I think the fact that, we're one-to-one and we can have a whole discussion about, if that's equitable or not, right? I mean, that's a whole nother subject. But the fact that we have computers for all our students and all of them have access to it. Now, when we get back on site, they'll also have consistent internet. I mean, the ways that we can use some of these tools to just further expand on the learning of our students is just going to be a great thing, So I think that is the one positive that has come through, from this, but definitely agree with Alessandra, just also take care of yourselves, spend time with your family, you know what I mean? Avoid going places if you can. I mean, because right now, at this point, I was joking with a friend of mine the other day, and it's like, just assume everybody has it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the kind of world we're living in right now.
Well, I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for participating in our panel discussion. It's so nice to see school leaders and school leaders who have some melanin share their thoughts. I think that's important. People always want to talk about diversity. I don't prefer the term people of color. I actually prefer to identify who we are. And so it's just nice to hear that perspective as well. So, I thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas and suggestions, your challenges, and just being authentic and honest. Gina and I have, like she said earlier, we've had plenty of conversations, and actually Mina as well. We've had plenty of conversations over the years about what education needs to look like. And this is our second podcast. And with each one, I know this is just the beginning, but I'm actually feeling like this is the beginning of something significant. And it's like you said, it's an opportunity to kind of share our perspective on education, and also to really disrupt what isn't working. So I think we should continue to engage in conversation with other leaders and really continue to be the advocate that I know that we all are. And on that note, I just want to say thank you, be safe, take care of yourselves. Gina?
Thank you. Much gratitude, much gratitude. The pandemic is a portal folks, take care of yourselves, nurture your imagination so we can imagine the world that we really want. So, peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you more.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.